Good morning. I am Brian Carpenter, sports editor of the Meriden Record-Journal, alongside my man, Sean Crofsick. Sean, you're all dry after tonight's out and about travels in the downpour, in the rain. But here, on the last full Friday of Friday Night Football, what an incredible Friday. We had great developments on the field, off the field, including a forfeit win that comes Platt's way and looks like it's going to save their season a little bit, at least going into Thanksgiving. A big night for Terrence Bogan down at Sheehan, an insanely big night for Terrence Bogan. You saw a good game down in Cheshire. Jake McAlinden, big night. Southington stays undefeated. There were 3 shutouts tonight because Southington, Cheshire, Wilcox Tech all won by shutout. Lyman Hall loses to Law. That's a tough loss for them. But all in all, Sean, a fine Friday night, was it not?
It was, yeah. You broke it down really nice there, Brian.
And I understand it's easy for me to say it was a fine Friday night because I had a roof over my head the whole time. I understand, too.
Those kids, I give them a lot of credit out there. It was cold and it was wet, and they played hard. They all stayed out there. Yeah, I was down in Cheshire today, and I saw them firsthand, and it was cold.
Well, what helped was a lot of the games starting early tonight. And while these games were going on, we got word from the CIAC that Bristol Central had to forfeit their win over Platt for use of, get this, an ineligible kicker. Platt lost to BC a couple weeks ago, 21-20. And then they lose to Middletown on Thursday night, 21-18 at Falcon Field. Just a crushing, heartbreaking loss. Chase Bessler stopped 1 yard from the end zone on the last play of the game. And it looks like Platt's season is over. 24 hours later, I'm talking to Coach Jason Bruin, and hey, they're 7-2 with this forfeit win.
Yeah, very much alive for the playoffs now, and that adds a lot of significance to Thanksgiving for sure.
That it does, and they have the inside track to the CCC Division II West title.
Yeah.
Which now Maloney, the defending champ, is in position to earn a share of that by beating Platt on Thanksgiving. All sorts of nice storylines going into Thanksgiving. For now, we're going to go back to Thursday night and the Platt Middletown game at Falcon. And Shawnee, Panthers had to play a little catch-up there. They never quite got over the hump, but what a fantastic fourth quarter for the Panthers.
Yes, absolutely. So they were down 14-6 at the half. They went down 21-6. And then 2 late connections from Lorenzo Sansone to Jake Baker. Actually, they had 3 total on the game. They also had 1 in the first quarter. But like you said, they came up 1 yard short. And Josiah Cooper also had a pick for Platt. But it was quite a game. It built up. It lived up to the billing.
That was the Panthers knew they had to win that game. Yeah. They're down their rally. Their last drive, they basically drove the length of the field in the closing minutes. Fourth down play, last play of the game. They ran a little gadget play, kind of like what the Eagles ran, I believe, in the Super Bowl. Chase Bessler gets a handoff from Jake Baker, and so close to the end zone, and a bunch of Middletown defenders converged on him, forced a fumble, and that was it. And when the Panthers walked off the field that night, they're just crushed. 21-18 defeat. Another close loss for them. They're 6-3, and really that at that point dropped them out of the Class L picture. And then boom, there's BC using an eligible kicker, also against Capital Prep. So those were 2 forfeits for the Rams. And there's Platt. They're number 9 in the points. They are on the inside track in CCC Division II West. Thanksgiving means all the world in Meriden once again. All right, and speaking of all-world performance, we had one tonight at Sheehan from Mr. Terrence Bogan, taking on shades of old friend Zach Davis, for God's sake.
Yes. 8 touchdowns, 406 yards for Terrence Bogan. This did look like a laugh for the other way early on.
Amazingly so. Couldn't believe Branford was up on them. Hey, Branford, good team, 5 wins coming in, but Sheehan, 6-1.
Yeah.
They had no business being behind 27-7, 27-14 at halftime.
Just amazing. And then out of the half, second play from scrimmage, Bogan goes 80 yards, and that was just the start of it. 4 more touchdowns right after that, 5 in a row in a near 10-minute span for Sheehan.
And you can't make this stuff up.
You cannot.
We could make up, what maybe Coach John Ferrazzi said to his team at halftime, or I could take a good guess. It certainly lit a fire under his boys on a very cold and rainy night.
Yeah. But, I guess it was the 19th greatest showing. That's what we had in our story today.
By yardage in the game, yes. Yeah. And the TDs are third best all time. Of course, Zach Davis, Terrence Bogan's predecessor, who's now at Fordham, holds the records. In fact, I think you saw all the games where he went over 500 yards and scored 10 touchdowns to set those records.
Yeah, I saw him to score the 10, against Lyman Hall, right? Was it? Yeah.
And, it wasn't too long ago that Zach Davis was doing it for Sheehan. And, when you start seeing the highlights coming over for Terrence, it's like, wow, I've heard this before. What a fine win for the Titans. They wound up scoring 50 unanswered points. Is really what it came down to. If you do the math, it ends up 64-27 in Sheehan's favor. They are now 7-1, third in the Class M points, Shawnee. Yeah. And they got a big game next Friday against East Haven. East Haven's very good this year. Mm-hmm. So, but it's looking good for Sheehan to return to the Class M playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah, one other, I just wanted to mention Mickey Deming had a strip sack. And Sheehan defense also 2 safeties.
That's right. After halftime, boom, doors closed on Branford. Some adjustments, good coaching job there at halftime. Mickey Deming and the boys, closed the door and actually score points. They outscored Branford 4-0. It's like bringing in your starters to finish off a baseball game, I guess. Now, while Sheehan was mounting this incredible second-half story on their side of town, Lyman Hall on their side of town, struggling to get in the end zone. It was, obviously the conditions were a factor over there. They fell behind against Jonathan Law. And that was a game Lyman Hall needed to have if they were going to stay in the Class M picture. With only 2 losses. Tonight was their third, and that really drops them far down, which is a shame because Bill Wyrick has done such a good job with that program over there. There were some nice highlights. I think you mentioned Shawnee Austin Ruiz going over 1,000 yards.
Yeah. He had a 136-yard performance. Unfortunately, they got shut out for much of the game. Zach Kaiser did break that shutout with a 1-yard touchdown run. Law had 3 touchdowns for Michael Plashin. So he was really the star. 3 touchdowns for the Lawman. Yeah. And
he did have a big night, and he went over 200 yards. They basically were wildcatting him is what they were doing. And you know what? On a night like tonight, limit exchanges. Just get the ball from center, grab that sucker, and go. And Plaskin did with the 3 touchdowns. Yep. Probably dealt a death blow there for Lyman Hall, at least as far as the playoff goes. But they go down to Guilford next Thursday, and then they have Sheehan. Yep. And you always have something to play for if you got a game to play. So, Bill Wyrock and his Trojans 5-3. Still playing for a winning record. Could spoil Sheehan's Thanksgiving.
Certainly.
We will see what happens. Okay, in our other games, the other 3 were all shutouts, Sean.
Yes.
A lot of goose eggs, including the one you were at down in Cheshire.
Yes. So, it was – there was a little sloppiness with the handoffs and some high snaps for sure, but the Cheshire offensive line was just purely dominant. Jake McElinden and Ryan Mansell combined for 5 touchdowns. Jake had 3 touchdowns, 262 yards on 23 carries. They scored 20 points in each half, and it was just pure domination from that offensive line and defensively as well. Chinson Akura, Austin Glassy, and Sean Cangiano all had sacks. Trevor DeLotte had a pick 6. Lots of highlights on senior night for the Rams, but it was good to see Donnie Drust and the boys, finishing strong. Yeah,
so they will ride that win into the Apple Classic in Southington in a couple of weeks. Southington, of course, is 9-0. They smoked South Windsor tonight, 55-zip. That game was on running time. Southington was technically on running time the whole way with Tanner LaRosa 4 touchdowns. Dylan Cole had a pair. Jamie Lamson was running tonight, the wide receiver. He had a touchdown. Ryan Walsh, a sophomore, first varsity touchdown. And with that win, Southington pretty much clinches their Class L ticket. But as we were looking at the Class L points, Southington wins today, goes to 9-0, but they actually dropped to number 5.
Wow.
And that was that whole scenario that they would go undefeated and still be on the road, if those teams above them went out. We'll see. They still have to play Cheshire on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. One last game tonight, Wilcox Tech down in Milford. 26-zip, break a 6-game losing streak. Derek Gendro had a big night.
Yes.
Bunch of touchdown passes. 4 of them, in fact, right, Shawnee?
Yes, he did. Yeah, 4 touchdowns. 3 of them were caught by Troy Mitchell, who caught 188 yards. They also did some damage on the ground. Alberto Saris had 136 rushing yards, and Jeremy Perez had a touchdown catch, and Jaheim Green had 9 tackles and 2 sacks defensively.
He's a good end. Whenever I've seen them play, he's very active. And this Saris kid, he's only a sophomore, filling in for DeVario Reed, who's injured. DeVario Reed's a 1,000-yard rusher. Saris goes in and rushes for over 136.
Pretty impressive.
And he had 12 tackles, too. The kid was busy. Hope you're sleeping in this morning, Alberta, but not too much because you got a highlight show to watch. Okay, Shawnee, that takes us through week 9. The stage is set for Thanksgiving. Apple Classic in Southington. Stoddard Bowl here in Meriden, which is, a lot of storylines going into there. And the Carini Bowl down in Wallingford. We're not done yet, folks, but for now, for this episode of This Week in High School Sports, Shawnee, football edition, we are, my friend. I am Brian Carpenter, sports editor of the Meriden Record-Journal, alongside my man, Shawnee Crossick. Thank you very much for watching. We'll come at you with the Athletes of the Week show, final fall edition, next Wednesday. Be good.